Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode number 73 of JustDario Cigar Time. Today is Saturday, 18th of April, and I waited 24 hours more than usual before posting my weekly update. Why? Because yesterday was optional expiration date in the US, and I expected a huge amount of shenanigans, especially from the US administration, to make sure that nothing could spook the stocks rally and that the oil price remained under control. And as a matter of fact, that is what happened with Trump in pre-market trading going on a blast of posts on True Social, saying literally everything he could possibly say to trigger every single trading algorithm out there in order for them to buy stocks. And the most famous tweet of all that he posted was announcing to the whole world that the Strait of Iran was open. Yes, I'm not joking here, because if you go to check at his post on Truth Social, that's what he wrote, confusing the Strait of Hormuz with the Strait of Iran. And then you had all this stampede of news aggregators, accounts on X, Axios, Associated Press, Reuters, everyone reporting everything possible aligned with the narrative. And then, things started to look pretty fair when the Iranian foreign minister posted as well, confirming that they would have opened the Strait of Hormuz on their side. Okay, fine. The problem there is that no one looked at the fine print, because no one cares at the fine print nowadays. You see an headlines, stock react based on the headlines because everyone needs to be quick. They go up, and there you go. That's the direction. Let's not bother about everything, because the market is efficient, the market is right. But you know what? If by now you haven't realized yet that the market is incredibly manipulated, then you should consider very carefully whether you want to continue trading this type of market, or maybe you might want to have a more conservative and medium to long-term approach that in general should help you sailing through this volatility and this incredible amount of manipulation. Why can we say that the market is manipulated? Because, again, 20 minutes before Trump shared with the whole world the news that, according to him, Strait of Hormuz was now completely open. 20 minutes before, a trader, again, placed $760 million short bet on oil. And this is the third time it happens. Not the first, not the second, it's the third time it happens. And guess what? The oil prices crashed. And fair enough, that's paper prices. So, we've been following silver for quite some time, so we've been following gold, and we know how these things work. But the problem here is that in the case of silver, before the massive crash of the 30th of January, engineered because silver didn't, fall back to the floor. We didn't see any change in fundamental between supply and demand whatsoever. So the tailwinds supporting that trend still remain very strong in the medium to long term. But we learned that in the short term, things can be heavily manipulated. And I would like to remind everyone that whatever I say, I always have a medium to long term view. I'm not a trader. I don't trade this market. I seldomly take very short-dated position, and always say that I consider them as bets because I'm fully aware of the degree of manipulation in the current market. So, going back to what happened, already during the trading day, it started to be clear that nothing changed. I posted about it immediately. I said, guys, well, look at this. I mean, after the Iran side clarified that effectively they would have reopened Strait of Hormuz under their own terms, meaning that every single ship would have been vetted, should have followed a specific route close to the Iranian shores, paying a toll and not be related to any belligerent country, everyone still ignore it. Why? Well, various reasons. The first reason is that this news was not really reported significantly by any news aggregators or mainstream media, because I mean the marching orders are very clear here. And then the shock, 2 hours after market close, the Speaker of the Iranian Parliament clarified to the whole world what people paying attention already knew, that Strait of Hormuz would have been open subject to their own terms, that if the U.S. Navy blockade remained in place, they would have considered promptly shutting the Strait of Hormuz close again, and that all that flurry of posts that Donald Trump shared with the whole world very timely before market open were a bunch of lies as far as they were concerned. Lies that there were no help whatsoever with the ongoing negotiations. And I mean, any adult with critical thinking, when he read President Trump writing that the US and Iran together would have cooperated to clear the Strait of Hormuz of the mines, you should have already felt puzzled about it, because it's pretty clear that Iran is not going to allow any military ship nearby its shores whatsoever. And then all sorts of things. So, to summarize everything, literally at the end of Friday, nothing whatsoever changed. Like the two counterparts, they currently stand maybe 10 centimeters closer compared to where they were 1 week ago in terms of negotiation. Trump on his side said he's not going to unfreeze Iranian assets. Iran on his side says they are not going to give their enriched uranium to anyone. It's not going to leave their territory. And then Iran made it very clear they are not going to give up the control of the Strait of Hormuz. While on the other side, they said it's wide open, okay, free for all. I mean, guys, reading at the comments of the post that I put yesterday, at some point I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not gonna say anything. But then I'm like, okay, man, this is too, blatantly wrong. Okay. And as I always do, I put objective facts out there. And the objective fact out there, so far, all of them point towards the fact that it is advantageous to Iran to continue dragging its feet and maintain the status quo, meaning tight control on the Strait of Hormuz. And they know that the longer the Strait of Hormuz stays shut, the greater will be the oil shock that is going to hit the economy. Currently, 550 million barrels oil supply are already missing from the economy. All experts out there, way more experts than me, are warning that it's going to take months, if not years, to normalize all the supply of oil. And all of this is being greatly ignored. market, they want to believe what they want to believe, and fair enough. We're turning towards a casino, and you need to be careful, because effectively, if you play in a casino, you are gambling, you're not investing, right? But here there is the problem, as I highlighted in many of my previous videos, and as I shared very great analysis this week from Chris Matterson, for example, is that you cannot print molecules out of thin air. You cannot print oil, right? So at the current prices, there is not gonna be willing seller for oil at these prices when the demand and supply are so skewed between themselves. You currently have a huge amount of empty oil tankers going towards the US. Why? Because both from Europe and Asia, they are competing among each other to secure supply. And currently, that excess supply sits in the US. Okay? So we already saw this week that there has been a significant drawdown of crude oil inventory, gasoline, diesel, and all other type of inventory. And it was greatly ignored. This is going to accelerate. So what do you expect is going to happen to oil prices in the real world when the physical crude starts to be not available to everyone anymore? And then there is another thing that really bothers me a lot that I see many posting. It's like, oh, you see, like imports of crudes are dropping, imports of natural gas are dropping because there is demand destruction. I mean, what demand destruction? I mean, how can you justify that with the current prices, right? You're simply like trying to make up a narrative to justify a chart and then interact with your audience in a way that, in my humble opinion, is not very professional. You see all this drop of imports simply because there is no goods going around. That's an effect of the Strait of Hormuz being closed and there being less and less of physical supply of oil, natural gas, and distillates that is going around in the world. And the last ship that left the Strait of Hormuz before everything started, it just arrived at destination this week. So currently the Strait of Hormuz is running at between 5-10%, sometimes even less than 5% of traffic in a normal day. So what do you expect is going to happen when in the US they're not really more, Russia is not really more, like OPEC supply, OPEC exports are literally falling off a cliff. Everyone is ignoring this. I'm like, everything is going to be hunky-dory. But this is an extremely dangerous situation because, I want to repeat here again, is that differently from silver, from gold, where the transmission into the medium and long term, into the price of all the factors that influence that, especially monetary inflation, for the oil, the transmission mechanism is much faster because there is such a high consumption and is so critical for the global economy that you cannot manipulate the price for decades like it happened for silver or for years like it happened for gold till it started to rise and never look back. Okay? For oil, here they are literally playing with fire. And I insist again, keep an eye on the 21st of April because there is a major role in the WTI future contracts happening in that date. And at the current price, I wouldn't be surprised at all to see all holders from the long side of those futures saying, okay, I want delivery, right? We've seen this before with silver, right? When the price was too suppressed and then deliveries skyrocketed. I wouldn't be surprised to see something very similar. While in a normal situation, you have like roughly like 2% in a big month, you have like 5% of the deliveries at pushing Oklahoma. So when all these deliveries are going to hit and be requested, what do you expect is going to happen to the price, right? What do you expect is going to happen to all those companies that are so dependent from energy costs, from any like oil and natural gas, distillate supplies, and so on, right? Airlines already started to increase prices significantly. They already started to cancel a significant amount of flights. And why they're doing that? Not because they don't have demand. The demand is actually there. The problem is that they cannot get the jet fuel. That's the real problem. And at the current price of jet fuel, it will be at a loss for them to operate those very short-haul flights. So everyone is starting to reposition, and yet you see this sort of out of control euphoria in the market with completely ignorance of the objective fact. So here I want to conclude. Be prepared because, after market close, President Donald Trump already shared with the journalists that are like, if we don't come to an agreement under my terms, we may start to bomb again Iran. I'm like, all right. Iran on its side mandated that all schools will be shut starting from the 21st, and all the kids will be doing home learning. You see a continuous flow of military troops from the U.S. going into the region. The U.S. Navy aircraft carrier Bush just arrived into the region along with its carrier group. And here you need to understand that Iran currently stands in a position of advantage of keeping the status quo. And there is no way they're going to give up their advantage unless those are being rebalanced with a successful use of force. Here I'm saying, so be prepared for these things. They already said they will not allow to extend the ceasefire. Either they get a full peace deal that is satisfactory for their side, or the ceasefire ends. And then that is the very big unknown, with everything converging towards the same date, that is the 21st of April. Thanks a lot for listening to my update to date. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification if you don't want to miss my future updates. Thank you for your support on X, on Instagram, for reading my research on JustDario.com. Thanks for your support, especially during this crazy time. Personally, I'm used to that because those who follow me since years know that, I've been criticized so much about what I said about AI, what was I saying about silver and gold and banks. I know I'm early. Okay, that's my problem. But this is also how I manage myself. I don't share things for trading for the sake of trading as everyone else does because it's so good to farm engagement and visibility. I don't care about that. What I care is to put out there my fair opinion, analysis, and objective information. Have a nice weekend, everyone. Sit tight. Talk soon.